how many different people are you coaching right now?
And I'm not an academic. You enjoy like building a team.
The more money you can make.
Communicating with your spouse is really, really important.
All right, so welcome to the DH. We got Brian Baver. Brian is a good friend of mine. He's also been a coach, a boss, and just a friend. And so I'm excited to have him here. So I'll give you kind of high level introduction, and then Brian will let you add to it. But Brian is a graduate from Florida State University. He is also a professor at Florida State University, but he's also a contractor, realtor, real estate investor, just all around entrepreneur. So, Brian, anything specific on that you'd like to add to the resume there?
Something in the last couple of years that I've started doing more of is the business coaching. So coaching people that have small businesses or sometimes people will have me coach someone inside their business. I'm doing that right now with another guy where I'm just really serving as a coach, but I'm getting paid to do it. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you actually did that for me. So when we moved to Colorado, so a little background, Brian is a contractor in Panama City, Florida, builds custom homes. He was someone we did a lot of work for. When we left Panama City and moved out to Colorado, I approached him about, mentoring me and meeting. We met monthly for a couple years, which honestly was a huge help. Just helping me opening up my kind of thinking a little bit, and just having someone that has a high IQ in business to be able to talk about things and offer a lot of guidance. So when you're in a new area and, doing the same industry that I've done my whole life, it was nice to have someone that understood the industry and just would help me process things in a healthy way. So he's very good at that. And so a lot of my success here, he was a part of that. So that's awesome. How many different people are you coaching right now?
Right now, I have 5 that I'm coaching individually, so we have monthly calls. Some of them are a couple times a month, some of them are each month, but, it's something I really enjoy, and now, actually, as you were speaking, I was thinking, that was kind of the precursor to me taking another step forward into the coaching world, is just, mentoring, like, and we've talked about, the mentoring I did with younger people, but as that's evolved over the years and starting to mentor people in the business world, and I think I love seeing people succeed, and do things successful. And you're a quick learner, and you think outside the box, and I love that about you. I take notes also when you and I are talking.
Well, it's funny. When I was in Panama City recently, I got to speak to your class, and I did it virtually once before that. Me and my brother, who's now also been on the channel. It was actually the first time I had ever stepped into a university. Was when I got to speak to your class. So it was kind of cool. It was kind of a proud moment. I was like, man, it's the first time I'm going into a college classroom and got to speak to some of the students. So, yeah, so that's, I'll start there. What is with some of the students that you talk to and your mentoring and just across all the different arenas that you're involved in? Do you interact? Do you come across other dyslexics very often? Is that something that you have, experience with? Tell me a little bit about like your experience with dyslexia and kind of your understanding of dyslexia.
Usually I wouldn't know unless they told me, right? And so in the academic world, and I'm not an academic, I just happen to be teaching entrepreneurship, right? So I'm more of a practitioner, and frankly, Adam, I wouldn't know you were dyslexic without you telling me.
Yeah.
So I would say in the academic world, when there's someone that has some type of disability, they'll usually go to the guidance office, and they'll get some type of form filled out where, hey, they bring it to the teacher and they say, hey, we need to give the student some accommodations, is what it's called. And those accommodations will be, maybe the different way to take tests or additional time. But, I'll say this, one of the things that I have learned over the years, and it really kind of goes back to when I was in college myself, is, when you study for a test, and you might relate to this actually very well, even not being in college, but from in high school, is when you study, you're studying for this test, and you're cramming things into your short-term memory. And once you get past the test, the next day you forget all the stuff, right? And so I don't like to teach that way. One of the ways that I like to teach is by presentations. So, a couple of years ago, we'd have students write reports, which now with ChatGPT, there's really no reason to do that anymore because anybody can be an expert writer now with ChatGPT, and really I encourage them to use that, and I want to know what their prompts are and how they're utilizing because I want to help them become better at that. There's really no reason people should type a business email that has misspellings or punctuation or grammatical errors and doesn't sound just perfect, really, because of AI now. But the way I like to test students is through presenting, and where they have to stand up in front of the class and present an argument to pitch something that they've learned, maybe to talk about the business that they're starting. Maybe they're using some PowerPoint or something, but it's I think it actually would work very well with dyslexics, the way that I teach now and the way I evaluate how students are doing, because you're either learning the material or you're not, and it's really more about doing rather than memorizing something. So that's kind of a long way to kind of answer that. But
Yeah.
so um, I'm thinking about what kind of accommodations I would give to somebody with dyslexia. It probably would have to do with time, give them more time if they needed to put something together on a PowerPoint or something, maybe help them with the PowerPoint. But now with AI, all that stuff can be done so much easier. So really some of those barriers are just, I think with AI, the barriers for somebody with that type of disability really goes way down, and then they can really focus on their strengths.
Yeah. No, for sure. We've talked about on the channel a bunch that technology is the great equalizer,
Mm.
and with AI, it's even more so that's even more true. And I would have like my wife or someone else or someone, my assistant, like proof my emails to make sure they just look professional. And now I just put everything into GPT, it pumps it right out, and so it just makes it so easy. But talking about the presentation, I actually really like that. I'm a terrible test taker because the way I learn, and if I can do a presentation, I love just like saturating myself with like
Yeah.
information. So I'll listen to like podcasts, I'll read multiple books. And so, regardless of what it is I'm trying to learn, if I'm just reading or consuming theology stuff or business stuff, I'll go through different cycles. And one of the things I want to talk about today is sales, and I'll just consume as much stuff as I can about sales. And then when I have a conversation about it, I even kind of surprise myself. I'm like remembering bits and pieces that I've heard, and you're able just to pull from that deep knowledge that you have. And it's just part of who you are at that point, which is really what you want because business, a lot of times, is just juggling a lot of different things and adjusting as you come across issues. And it's not that like study, fix it, and then you never have to deal with it again. You're always kind of revisiting things.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, like the aspect of business, because we also talk a lot about like starting service businesses specifically, because that's what I've done. And when you're starting a business, I've noticed that like you get a couple things going. It's like you get your website up and you get some marketing going. And then you're like, oh, well, now I got to focus on production. And it's like, oh, my marketing is not quite as good as it. So you go back and revisit, and then you find out, oh, your production isn't really great. So then you're going back to revisit that. Talk about that juggling and keeping kind of all sides of the wheel, rolling smoothly in business. And how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah. Okay. I actually like to go back a little bit further if that's okay.
Okay.
And because as you know, I teach entrepreneurship at Florida State, right? And a lot of times students will come in and they'll have an idea. They like, hey, I have this widget or this service or whatever that I want to do, and I want to sell to the world. And they have a solution to something that may or may not be a problem. Okay.
Yeah.
They perceive it as a problem, but does a market large enough to sustain viable sales see it as a problem? And so what I get students to do is take a few steps back and say, let's go out and observe. Let's go see if other people think this is a problem also. You're going to survey people, right? You're going to watch people. You're going to go on to online blogs about what are people talking about. And so first we need to determine is the solution that we're thinking about, really solving a problem that's big enough that we're going to be able to make an income. Okay. So then once we do that, then we spend a lot of time talking to those initial customers. And you do this with your business, with your painting business. At the front end, you're listening to the pain points. What are the things that they're frustrated about? Where have things gone wrong in the past when they've had something else painted? So you're listening to those things, and that's cueing you in, and and that's what's going into your long-term memory, Adam. Is you're learning you're learning what the pain points are, and then you're building a business that's going to hit those things. And so when you start marketing, maybe cleanliness is one of those things, I'm guessing, in the painting world, because I've had things painted in my house, and I know what my wife has complained about over the years of, oh my goodness, we're still seeing finding some paint spots or something, right? And so maybe that's one of the things you focus on is you're the cleanest painter. You clean up after yourself, or you're timely, you're punctual. So you're listening to those things that people have complained about. Okay. So you want to solve a problem that is worth solving, that you're going to be able to get paid for. And so I think that's probably, unfortunately, I wish I would have gone back a little bit further. That's step two. So step one, let me go back one more. And I know you won't show this in reverse, but it'll make sense in a second. Actually, so don't you read some things in reverse? Is that one of the things about this? Okay, so this is gonna work out perfect. Okay, yeah, all right. So maybe that's me a little bit too. Okay, and so we're gonna go backwards a little bit further, and so we're gonna look at what are the things that you enjoy. What are the things that
Yeah.
you think you're good at? Now, what are the things that others say you're good at? What are the things that you have life experiences that put you in a unique stance that you're going to be able to help understand the people that are in that arena? Okay. So I happen to know that
Well,
you know something about the painting world, right? Go ahead.
yeah,
Are you gonna say something?
on that note, yeah, I love that. I actually really love that because a lot of times you hear people say, "Follow your passion," and I understand, but I don't agree. It's like, why don't you find out what you're good at and do it enough to where you become passionate? Because if you're really good at something, you're probably gonna become passionate about it. Do you kinda agree with that? Okay.
Absolutely. So,
I think that's great advice.
yeah, you could become passionate about making, widgets or doors or window or whatever it is. I mean, because you enjoy like building a team or doing things to perfection or whatever. But my point is, so take these circles, and then I'm just using, this is an analogy, but write down all the things. What are you good at? Now, what do other people say you're good at too? That's a really good check. And so one of the things we'll do is we'll say, in class, I'll literally say, text your best friend and say, what are the things I'm always talking about? What are the things that you think I'm good at? Because a lot of times there are superpower, and I don't know if you've used that term before when talking with people, but
Mhm.
the things that you're really good at are your superpower. And you don't realize it because it's an unconscious competence that you have. You're unconsciously very competent in that area, and you don't even realize it. You think everybody is or whatever, right? And so anyway, going back to step one is let's find something that you're gifted at, you're interested in, right? You're going to get up every morning even though it was hard, and you're going to keep trying after it. Okay. Once you figure that out, then you go into that step two and you figure out what's that problem we're solving inside of that arena. Okay. So then now we're actually at your original question is balancing the marketing and the sales and the product offering and all of that, right? And so the best advice I can give you with that is listen to your customers. Listen to your customers. Survey your customers. Spend as much time as you possibly can understanding their pain points and the things that are important to them. Now, sometimes it's hard. It's hard because we have to get some honest feedback, and yeah, sometimes it's hard to look at it, particularly if we didn't do something as well as we would have liked to have done it, right? But that's the best thing that is the very best thing that we can do, particularly at the early stages of a business, is to listen to them, and then they're going to tell us where to market because we're going to learn more about them, right? They're going to be telling us where should we be marketing our product because what other friends do you have? If you're finding that low hanging fruit, we call those early adopters. The early adopters for the people that are looking for a solution to this problem that you're trying to solve. they're going to lead you to that next step, which is the early majority. And that's really where you can make a whole bunch of the money, because the early adopter side, if you think about a curve, bell curve, early adopters are the very front edge. There's not enough to build a business out of that. Where you start to make the money is that early majority, the majority of the people that are they're going to listen to the early adopters. They're going to listen to what they have to say. And so it is a balance, and particularly I'm guessing, some of the people that chime into your podcast, there are people that are starting new businesses. Maybe they're having to wear a whole bunch of hats at the same time to get started, right?
Yeah.
And they're trying to figure out, hey, what should I be doing? What should I be doing? Well, number one is sales. Number one, absolutely nobody can sell like the owner, right? Because you're going to be the one that believes in your product or service the most, and you know that it can help them. And you're just going to, but you got to listen. You got to listen to what they're saying as to how to adjust that unique selling proposition. You probably used that term before. The unique selling proposition that you have that you're going to bring to market.
Yep. No, I absolutely believe that. I mean, we're not a giant business. In fact, I still do all of our sales in our painting business. And we kind of, I mean, some of that is through some of our conversations and very intentionally delegating everything else that I can and focusing on the sales. Now, we have to do the other things. We have to market, we have to, pay the invoices. So we need someone to handle the bookkeeping and all that. But you always hear it, the closer you can get to the money transaction, the more money you can make
Yeah.
for like people who are looking for a job. But if you're the business owner, again, it's the heartbeat of the business. If you don't have revenue, you don't have anything to manage.
Yeah. As far as the widget or the service that you're selling, the thing that you need to do as the owner is to build scaffolding and a framework and a system so that you can hire someone to go do that thing. And then you're going to stay in front of sales as long as you possibly can. And then when you do hire a salesperson, you need to expect that person to be the highest paid person in your company. That salesperson needs to be the highest paid person in your company. That's why one of the reasons it's the last thing that you're going to let go of, right?
Yeah.
Because it's just the lifeblood of it's the lifeblood of your company, and nothing happens without sale.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the framework around it. So you're talking about, having, as the owner, you're staying in sales, but you're still having people, handle bookkeeping. Having people handle customer service. In those different roles may look a little different depending on the industry that you're in. But there has to be some level of involvement from you, the owner, especially when you're smaller. Like for instance, like my company, we do about $3 million a year. We have a really slim kind of infrastructure. And so I'm still very involved in the management and in grading how they're doing in these certain areas. I'm not calling, I'm not taking customer service calls necessarily,
Yeah.
but I'm monitoring it to make sure that it's being done well. What is your thought in say you just started a business, you got some sales, you're handling production, you're handling quality control. How do you kind of hand that baton off in a good way? I always think of like a relay race when you kind of hand that baton off, you're both holding it for a minute
Yeah.
and then you kind of let go. Talk to me about that. What does that kind of look like?
Yeah. Well, this is actually something I use in my business coaching a lot. And this is a very simple concept, and it'll be easy to describe to. Picture a square. Okay, it's called the leadership square. Okay, and at the top of the square, you're going to say, uh, "I'm going to do," meaning you as the business owner. I'm going to do, and this new person that you're trying to hand this one baton off to, right? You're going to watch. I'm going to do. You're going to watch. Okay, I'm gonna talk to you about what I'm doing, explaining to you what I'm doing. I'm doing it. You're just watching me, right? The next step as you go around that square, so now we start at the top, we're gonna move down to the side, right? Is I'm gonna do, but you're gonna help me. I'm gonna do, but you're gonna help me. And so as you're helping me, I'm continuing to coach you. I'm handing a little bit off to you at a time. But I'm still the main one that's doing it. You're just helping me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. As you go around that square, you get down to the bottom of the square is, hey, you're going to do now, I'm going to help you, right? you're going to do, I'm going to help you. And they're going to make mistakes, right? But you're right there to help them. You haven't just handed the baton off and said, "You do, and I'll help you as you go." No, no, no. We started with, "I do, you watch, then I do, you help. Now you do, I help you." Okay? Now it's a square, not a triangle. We're gonna go all the way around because we gotta free up that time for you to spend more time in sales, right?
Mhm.
I do, you watch. I do, you help. You do, I help. Now you do, I cheer, and and I step back and I coach from a distance.
Yeah,
Okay. So
I love
it,
that.
it's something where it takes time. And a lot of times what business owners will do, particularly when you got all these sales you started out with, you're like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? Oh, I need to find somebody to do this. So here, go figure out how to do that. And that is a recipe for disaster. You haven't built a framework, a scaffolding to show them what it is that you expect. So I was actually just talking to somebody about this morning, was there are different seasons in our life, that uh, we are going to need to put in extra time. Okay. Sometimes people say, well, I want to be a business owner so I can decide what I do with whatever, when my time, right? Well,
Yeah.
and I know this, when you start a business, you're doubling down on your time. And so frankly, you need to go to your spouse, you need to go to your wife, or if your husband or whatever, and you say, "Hey, this is gonna take some extra time. Okay? The next 3 months, I'm gonna have to be working 60, 70 hours a week. Let's evaluate how that is at the end of that time." Okay? Because this is a season that we're gonna be in that I have to double down my time, because not only do I need to do sales, but I gotta build this scaffolding for this next person to be able to for me to be able to train, right? And so
Yeah.
you're gonna go through that season of life where you're having to spend some extra time. Now, once you get through some of those seasons, then you're able to take a step back and you're able to, maybe come on to a more normal, work week. But at the beginning of starting the business, it's gonna take you extra time to do.
Yeah. No, I agree, and I would even add that that comes in what I've found is that even changes. It's not just when we first start a business. Like, this past year has been a little bit more, foot off the gas a little bit, but this next year, we're putting the foot back down on the gas, and we're doing some new things, and so it's a little bit more time, a little bit more work. So I've even noticed through that, 20 years of being in business that you might have, months,
Oh, yeah.
even years where it feels a lot more intense. It's not just the beginning. You might get 5 years in and realize that, "Hey, I really wanna refine this process," or, really understand marketing or really dial in the marketing more,
Mm.
and you just spend all your extra time learning that skill so then you can do what you talked about, which is hand it off, but you have to build a process so that you can hand it off.
You do, and being married, I've been married 3 years. How long you been married?
21.
21 years. Okay, so,
Yeah,
that takes work, right?
yeah,
And but it's worth it, right? And so I would say you need to stay in close connection with your wife during this process, and to say, "Hey, we're gonna put our foot on the gas, right? I'm gonna work some extra hours, but we need to keep an open dialogue and know that this time is, we're gonna put a 3-month time window on this or something, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna evaluate what was that like? Where do I need to take a step back and maybe be a little bit more present with my family?" But
yeah,
communicating with your spouse is really, really important during this process. But I mean, because you're going to go through these seasons, like you said, where you need to put the foot on the gas and you need to spend some more time at work. And that's just part of life. That's just part of being a business owner, and it should be expected.
yeah,
But when it becomes the norm, this is the issue, is when that becomes the norm, when the 60 and 70 hours a week are the norm,
yeah,
that's when it's a problem. That's when you're not present. That's when you're not there for your kids. That's when you're not there for dinner with your spouse, right? And so it should be the exception to the rule, right? And also your spouse should have the ability to say, "Hey, the last time you did this, it really didn't go so well. Maybe we don't go 70 hours, maybe we go 50," you know?
yeah. No. Talk to me a little bit about that because I actually love that. We talk a little bit about that. I've actually had, Sarah, my wife, on the channel 2 different times talking about education and dyslexia. Talk to me a little bit about when you're mentoring young men, or even, you're teaching your students, um, and also talk about difficult times. We both went through the '08 housing bubble, and that was a really tough time for everyone that was in the construction industry. So, as you're going through those difficult times and you're having to have those maybe more difficult conversations, and it's like, hey, I don't have an option. Like, we have to buckle down. I have to do this. We're just in survival mode. What have you found that is helpful if there's, because there's probably tension, right? Because, like, there's probably some financial strain. I know for us there was. It was like, "Hey, I gotta work 10 hours a day every day so that we can stay alive." We had just built a house, and it was a crazy time.
Yeah.
But my wife is a trooper. We fought and did what needed to be done. I know that one thing that we've done, me and my wife, is we have 2 date nights, basically. Yeah. We have a date night where we go out and we just enjoy one another, and it's just a fun time together. And then we have a meeting or a date where we just talk about logistics. We talk about schedule. We talk about, things that we gotta take our kids to and stuff like that. So what are some good practical tools that you found that help with the communication with your kids and your spouse? And then we'll talk some about the business stuff too.
Hearing you say that makes me smile, Adam, and I hope it was something you picked up, from the coaching that we did years ago, because that is one of the things that I really talk to people about is having a business meeting and having a date night with your wife every week. And I'll tell you how it came about. I learned later that, this is something that people get paid a whole lot of money to coach people into being able to do, but it was something that I learned really out of necessity, okay? And it was, you'd go out on a date, and been a hard week, right? And you just wanna unwind, you just wanna enjoy each other, right? And
Yeah.
maybe imagine what the future is gonna look like, particularly if it's you're going through a difficult time, and then you get in an argument. Right? Have you ever gone and spent $150 on a dinner and gotten in an argument and the whole evening was blown? Yeah, and me neither, never have you either. Well so I remember coming home and thinking, I'm done doing that. I am not gonna go spend $150 on a dinner and end up in an argument. No, that's the last thing in the world I wanna do. And so I said, "You know what?
Yep.
There's a better way to do this." And so I started separating business from a date, okay? And I keep in my phone, I have and I in my phone, I have a note list of, um we can go and talk about this later if you want to, but it's called a discuss with. And, it's all the people I have conversations with in regular, life, like, just people I'm gonna meet with regularly that I like to have face-to-face conversations if it's something's important, okay? And
Yep.
so that's kind of a tangent a little bit, but my point is I have 2, entries for my wife. One is date night and one is business meeting. And so on date night, I have a list of things, good things to talk about. Like, what was the best vacation that we've had, in the last couple of years? Where would you like to go next year? Is there anything that you would like for us to do that we're not doing? Is there anything that I'm not doing as your husband that I should be that, could you'd feel more loved by me, what are some things that we can do to get away? And what would you like to do? You know, just fun things as a family and fun things as a husband and wife. That's date night stuff, okay? And then the business side, the bit we and so you need to think strategically about when are you gonna have these things. So date nights for us is usually on Friday or Saturday night. So, the business meeting, we usually do it, like, on Sunday evening. That's kinda like the start of getting ready to start the week. The kids go to, youth on Sunday nights, and then so we have the house to ourselves for a little while, and we can meet and talk about what the week is gonna look like. Now, I'm gonna be full disclosure, it doesn't happen every week, and I wish that's one of the things that I need to get better at is to have that because the week goes by much smoother when I do that. And, we're getting back onto a good track, but I can just think, it wasn't long ago that I was off that track, and I realized we were missing out. We weren't talking about some of the things we needed to talk about. But you have those business meetings, strategically, right? And you write down all the things you need to talk about. Like, a lot of times it's like the calendar. It's like because we got 4 kids, and they've gotta be at different places, soccer practice or band or whatever it is, and no one's in the band. Piano. One of them plays piano. Okay. So, but my point is, that is part of what that is, and separating those 2 has been really, really helpful. Uh, that's hopefully that was helpul with what you're asked. You talked about a lot of things in your question. I made me think about, the struggles that, I can remember we lost our house and when the Great Recession happened, and I remember that feeling. Oh, this was the other thing I wanted to mention about that was this, is yeah, you gotta double down. I mean, when things get hard like that. But the other piece of the puzzle is the results are not in your or the results are not up to you. It really is up to God. And yes, you are called to be a good steward of your time and your money and your talents, right? But the
Yeah.
ultimate result is up to God. And
Yeah.
there's some really good people that have lost, right? And that have done everything right and they've lost it all. And I'm not calling myself a really good person, but we did lose it all for back when the market crashed, and we made it back up. Um,
Yeah.
but that's part of also being a business owner too.
Yeah.
So
It's part of the risk, I think, is, sometimes the bets pay off, and when the bets pay off, it's really good. And when the bets don't pay off, it's depends on how much you have on the table.
yeah,
Um, two two things you mentioned that, what tell me your tangent about meeting face to face, and I'll just comment. um, I remember when I worked for you, we were coming out of '08. I was there a lot of interaction with me and you, and I remember you called me and said, "Hey, I want to meet with you. Can we do breakfast?" And we talked about some logistics stuff. You said, "Hey, I want to do XYZ, but if I do XYZ, I want to kind of be prioritized. When I need something, I want to know that I can count on you to do that." And we came to a great agreement, and we worked together for years and years. So I've been the recipient of those face-to-face conversations. Tell me a little bit about that. What's your thought
yeah,
process?
yeah. We're overwhelmed. I would imagine a lot of the people that watch this podcast are. If they have dyslexia, getting emails is like the last thing in the world they want to be responding to on a daily basis, right? I mean, it is so. I don't have dyslexia, and I know it is hard for me to stay on top of email. Okay, and so
Yep.
what if I was to have written that in an email, Adam, and said, "Hey, I want to do this, and I want you to do this." So much of that is lost. One, you might not have even read it. Number one, right? It could have been missed, right? Because we get so many. Two, you don't know my tone. You can't read my face.
Yeah.
I also can't. What if I saw hesitation in you when I was trying to explain that? If it was an email, it's just an email and sent is out there. And
Yep.
but I can adjust what I'm saying based on the way that you're responding. And so, some things are done by email. I don't want to discount. I do send a lot of emails, but the things that are really important, I try to do them face to face. And I've learned to kind of think: is this a text message? Is this a phone call? Is this an email? Or is this face to face? And for the people that I meet with regularly, if there's something important that I wanted to say, put it in my notes it goes under the discuss with, and I save it for that because I'm able to communicate with them, and then maybe I do follow up. Hey, I'm going to follow up with an email and to clarify this and make sure we have documentation of whatever it is. But my discuss with list is not necessarily just with subcontractors. It's like it could be with my family. It could be with my
Yeah.
friends. It's just things that I think of. When you're in that place where maybe if you run or I like to paddleboard, and you think of things. I'm always writing those things down. You're like, okay, I want to talk to that person about this, and I want to talk to this person about
Yeah.
that, and so I write those down. I'm always using like, hey Siri, remind me to do this, and I'll go put that in that note. But that brings me to one more point. Let me bring up that brings up another point. We should all, particularly those that are starting businesses, you should have when is it that you think best? When is that? Identify what that is and spend time thinking. Some of the best CEOs in the world, they carve out time of their day every day to think. Literally just think. And so, if it's when you run, if it's when you sit down and just have some quiet time, or is it, for me, it's on a paddleboard oftentimes, but usually I'm moving my body. is something that's happening, and it's triggering something, and I'm thinking of things, and that's when you need to be able to write those things down so that you can come back to them later. Then you have a conversation, you have a face-to-face conversation, and it's much more meaningful. People are going to remember a conversation face to face much more than they are going to be an email.
Yep. No. Yeah, I'll second both of those things. I consume a lot of information. My family kind of laughs at me because I'm always got like an earbud in, listening to a podcast or this or that, and I enjoy it. It's I'd much rather watch a YouTube interview or listen to a podcast than like watch TV. And so it's not uncommon. My daughter, we go camping, and so she'll be reading a book, and I don't listen to podcasts when we camp, but that going into like having quiet time and just being able to think and process. I do a lot of that when I'm out. We paddleboard together, inspired by you. And we also do a lot of hiking and things like that. But I do find I get a lot of expansion on ideas that I've heard or if they discussed. Like after this conversation, I'm sure that when I'm sitting in the sauna or on a walk or on a hike or whatever, I'll be thinking about it and something will come to me.
Mhm.
And I think it is important. It's so easy to consume information that we do take the time to actually think about the information that we're consuming now because there used to be the saying, knowledge is power, and I've been saying for a while that knowledge isn't really power. It's the ability to implement that knowledge is power because everyone's pretty much got the same knowledge, especially in
It's available.
places
Yeah,
like the US.
it's definitely
It's
available.
available.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned your faith, and
Mhm.
I do want to touch on that because that's something that I know either in our coaching and our conversations, you talk a lot about that. That's helped you with your relationships and your business. How do you kind of view business and faith? How do you marry the two? At what point do you I yeah, just talk a little bit about that. I would just love to kinda hear your thoughts on that. We just did some podcasts with another, a theologian, and he also has a business degree, and so it's something we talk about quite a bit on the channel. So talk about how you process that.
Yeah. Well, do we believe that we're here for a purpose, or we just is this all by random chance? If you believe you were just here by random chance, you're really nothing that. I mean, I don't really know how to even relate to that, frankly. I would feel lonely. I think not knowing that I had a relationship with God, my Creator. But I'm sure there's people out there that are watching this that's where they are. And all I would say is look around and ask. And the scripture talks about how he has made himself evident to everyone. And you just kind of boil down the questions. Well, why? Why would you not want to believe? What is it that are you afraid to give something up? Does it seem foolish?
Yep.
Um, and so I obviously my relationship with God, it is paramount. I mean, it is paramount to anything else in my life. My relationship with God, I believe that without any question. And through that, He has made relationships with other people also the most important thing. If you think about what Jesus said, he said, the greatest commandment was to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind and spirit. And equally as important is to love your neighbor as yourself. So he didn't leave it to just have a relationship, the vertical. He said this is just as important. And so I guess my question to myself then is, am I treating other people the way I would want to be treated? And am I treating them really, really well? And so that goes to how we treat our customers, right? Are we fair and honest and equitable with our customers? Do we give them
Yep.
the type of attention that they deserve, right? How do I treat my employees, my team, right? Something we do when we start every meeting, the very first thing we do, we have a weekly meeting. The very first thing we do is we pray. And I believe everyone on my team is a Christian, but I didn't hire specifically for that. And it's certainly not, if somebody doesn't want to be part of that, they don't have to. But I will say this, I think if they're going to spend a third of their time of the week at my office working for me, um, I think it's one of the things that I can be a good steward of is to know if is there something going on in their life that is important to them that they would like prayer. They would like for me to know. They would like for us to go to God and say, "Hey, so and so needs help with this. God, please help them."
Yeah.
And so I think that is it's all part of it. Now, let me also say this. I do not lead in when I meet a customer or subcontractor or anybody else. I do not lead in with being a Christian, and frankly, I'll say this: if someone leads in with that, it's usually a a signal to me to be careful. Okay, because
Yep.
and I hate saying this, but I mean I've been burned by more Christians than non Christians. You know, the people that have hurt me the worst in life have also been a Christian, and that hurts. And so I try to live and do by my actions. And if someone wants to talk about it, I'm happy to. Now, my employees, they have to hear me. I mean, I can talk about these things, right? But our subs and our vendors and our customers, I don't talk about that. But I will say this: we finished a job recently, and one of the customers asked our construction manager. He said, um, he said, "Is Brian a Christian?" And Lawrence said, "Yeah, he is." And he goes, I thought so, just by the way that we treated him. And I like that. That's a win in my book, that I never said it, but he saw it by the way we treated them.
It's evident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
I love that. So go ahead. Sorry.
no, no, no. You go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so it seems like it's not necessarily like you're, like you said, you're not leading with it, but it's kind of the lens you see it through. And so when you treat your customers a certain way, it has that underlying, principles of your faith and of Christianity. And I'm the same way. It's like I want to be above fair. I want people to feel I don't know, I want them to feel good just from like a business standpoint. I want it to be a good interaction. But when hard things happen inevitably, when you have
Yeah.
enough things going on, hard things are going to come up and the difficulties will come. And I think having that kind of foundation definitely for me, and it sounds like for you, it just kind of comes through. And it does open up interesting conversations too. Just even you don't necessarily have to lead with it, but sometimes it comes up. I've had customers, going through a hard time, and you're able just to maybe you don't even like pray with them, but you're able just to encourage them. You're able to just, give them, be empathetic,
Yeah.
and let them know that you're for them.
Yeah. This morning, I spend time every morning praying, and I was reading some scripture while I was doing that, and it was Philippians 4:5, and it says, "Let your reasonableness be known to everyone, for the Lord is at hand." And reasonableness, gentleness is also used in different translations. But I think honestly, if somebody is going to be a Christian in the business world, one, they need to bring their A game, right? They need to bring their A game. There's because particularly if someone knows that they're a Christian, they need to be above reproach. Okay, uh, but also when things don't go well, do we fly off the handle? Do we act like the world is ending? Do we act like God is not really in charge? So letting your reasonableness be known to everyone, for the Lord is at hand. He is at hand. He's in me. He's in you. And so when things don't go well, or bad things come our way, right? How am I handling those bad things? How am I handling those hurdles in life? Does it look like I really don't believe what I say I believe? Or am I really reasonable? Am I even keeled about it? Doesn't mean I can't get upset, or doesn't mean I can't be sad or whatever, but I can still have peace. I can still have joy even in the midst of sadness.
Yeah. And I'll second that. I've watched you firsthand, with customers. We've had customers that have been, you know, uh, difficult. Feel the set. Say that, and then you have just situations. I mean, when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar projects, and you do it long enough, you're going to have conflict, and sometimes that goes to court. Sometimes you're able to, figure out other ways. And I've seen you navigate difficult situations, and I me and my team, man, that's gotta be so stressful, and I'm sure there is a level of stress, but, um, I've never felt that anxiousness, that unease. There's always been a sense of peace when I've interact with you, and you've told me about those situations, so, I would second what the customer said. It's evident in how you live life and how you kind of display yourself. So
Appreciate you saying.
going in, yeah. So going into mentorship, so you obviously talk with a lot of students. You also specifically, I know at some point or at one point you were meeting with some kids in college or in high school and kind of mentoring and doing that type of thing. So kind of across the spectrum, and the advice may be different depending on the situation. But what do you see as good opportunities? We talked about focusing on your strengths,
Yeah.
but if you were just going to kind of broadly paint a picture or with a broad brush, where do you see opportunities in the workspace? There's a lot of conversation about, times are harder now, you can't do this, college is more expensive, etc. So you have kids that are be going to college, you mentor people, you coach people, you see a lot. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about where you see opportunities right now.
L I'll back up real quick and say why this is important to me in the first place. So,
Yep.
my dad was awesome, and he's still alive, and I spend see him all the time, but I was blessed with probably the best dad anyone could ever imagine. But what I also know is that that's a gift, okay? And not everybody was given that gift, okay? So, uh, there's I think that God has given me a heart to be a father figure sometimes to other people, okay? So not only do I have my kids, right? And I have 4 kids whom I love, but, years ago, I just started going to the local school, or high school or middle school or whatever, and there's opportunities to be able to mentor and help somebody, and there's programs, golly, I mean, there's so many opportunities out there for that and they're so hungry. They're so hungry for a male role, particularly a male role model, because so many young people are growing up in a home that doesn't have a male in it, okay? And that is really hard, and we're gonna pay some major consequences for that, and you see some of the frustrations that come out from late people in their late teens that end up in prison because they didn't know how to channel some of the things that they were feeling. They didn't have a male role model in their house to show them that. So, that started at an early age. Just, I saw the need and I just started going after and helping people. And I think what I would say is the consistency is probably one of the most important things, particularly if somebody doesn't have a male role model in their life. That if you say you're going to be there for them, you're there. I can tell you this: your audience. I don't care how old you are. There's somebody that you could mentor. I promise. There is somebody that you could mentor. There's somebody that needs something that you know that they don't know yet. That's just you're just maybe a couple steps ahead of them. Well, they could really use that. Now, that's got so many benefits to it because, um, you know, actually, I have a sign over here that it says, "It's a careful man I want to be. It's a little chap who follows me. I don't dare go astray because I fear he'll go the same way." So when we're mentoring someone, right, that's also going to help us keep us in check because we don't want to be hypocritical, right? So if you're helping somebody, if you're helping somebody along and you're leading them by example, it's probably going to help you stay on the right track too, right? So let's fast forward a little bit. Now I work with a college group. It's called the Well now at our church. We started it last year, and I think God has given me a heart to work with that college age ministry. And so we started that because we didn't have anything like that at our church. Now we have 20, 30 of them show up every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, which is about my bedtime. And then we eat food, we enjoy each other's company. We do usually somebody leads worship, and then we lead a devotion. Um, and so, some of them and the inside of that world there, I would say that I'm mentoring, but just being uh, again, reasonableness, regardless of what's going on, I try to show up and be there and show them that somebody cares, right? Somebody cares. So, I think we should
Do you
never
think that
stop
the
mentoring.
consistency do you find that the consistency is almost more important than the substance? And what I mean is just being someone that shows up consistently and they know that you care about them is even more important than you being, oh, well, I got to wait until I'm a millionaire before I can mentor someone, or I got to wait until I make six figures or this or that.
Yeah. You've probably heard that people don't care what you know until they know how much you care. Have you ever heard that? So, that is you show you care by time in, right? The time you spend in, and then ultimately by you spending that time, you're gonna have those opportunities to be able to speak. You do not need to wait until you have a certain amount of money in the bank or whatever. And I can remember even when Jessica and I were talking about having our own kids for the first time. I remember I had a number in my head that I wanted us to have before we started having kids, and then I realized we probably weren't going to get there. And does that mean we don't have kids? Or does that mean we wait until we're old or whatever? And I'm so thankful that we decided, not to wait, um, because the reality is the money has very little to do with it. I mean, it's very, very little to do with it. Your kids want you, not what's in your back pocket, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Everybody has something to give.
So,
I was also just gonna say, I also have a mentor. So and I meet with my mentor regularly. We meet once a month, and we've done so for years. And so, I think everyone should have somebody that they're looking up to and somebody that they're trying to help bring up. And so, I
mhm.
try to keep that balance. And, um, yeah, man, I think that's a if I was only
You
only receiving, I was,
Yeah. If you came across someone who was looking for, looking for mentorship, maybe there's online, they see these guys, they've had other people in their life, and they look around their community and they just don't really have that. And you could say, all right, well, get involved in, a church, a synagogue, whatever, find a community and start building those relationships. But that can take some time too. What would you say if like if someone's just struggling to find that community,
yeah.
what are some good first steps to kind of
Okay.
head down the right path?
Absolutely, absolutely. One, I would say you want to determine what's important to you. Like, what are the words that you want to describe yourself? Okay, and determine what is it that is important to you. Okay, now determine what is it that you want in a mentor. Like, what are the things you want in a mentor? And for me, the mentor that I was looking for is I wanted someone that ran a successful construction company. Okay, because I was in the construction world, right? I wanted somebody that loved his family and it was evident. Okay, long term marriage, kids, successful, all of that, right? And I also wanted somebody that was very generous in the community. Okay, and so those are the things I said. Those are the three things I'm looking for. I'm gonna wait until I find that. Okay, so now I know what I'm looking for. Now, how do I find that? It's kind of thing where it's almost like a dating thing. Like, uh, go the types of places, be the kind of person that the type of person that you're looking for is looking for. Okay. So be the type of person, go the types of places, do the types of things that the type of person you're looking for is looking for. Go back to the dating example. That means you're probably not going to find the person you're looking for at a bar, right? Because that's probably not one of the things that you listed. However, that's what many people do is that they go look for somebody that could be a potential spouse or something, right? In a bar. And that's probably the last place to go find them, right? So
Yeah.
I would say get involved with things in the community. And it's going to take time. And guess what? If it's important to you, you're going to do it. If it's important to you, you're going to figure it out, right? It is not rocket science. And usually somebody is willing to quit right before something good happened, okay? And so I would say, keep looking, don't quit, you're gonna find somebody, okay? And, uh, and 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 the way that the world is now with everything that is at our fingertips right now is you can actually have mentors that you don't even know to start with,
Yeah.
okay? Because people have written, right? The people have written books, and you can get to know them and go deep with them. Pick somebody that has these high moral standards and that has done these great things that has also written. You can learn so much by what they've written. Take the time to do it. Now, somebody say, well, that's going to take too much time. Well, it's just not important enough to you. If it's important to you, you'll do it. You'll figure it out.
Yep, and you'll stick with it. Two things. I want to elaborate on on dating for just a moment, but I want to circle back to you talk about just sticking with it.
Mm.
Something that you really encouraged me early on is getting up early and doing the important things first. And I remember it was like read some scripture, pray, work out, and then work. And you do them in those order, and you don't do the workout until you do your devotional. You don't
Mm.
do the work until you do the workout. And it's just creating priorities. And then you were like, but it's probably going to mean that you have to get up early. And I was like, man, it's so hard. And you're like, yeah, if it wasn't hard, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Right.
Wait, all right,
Right.
thanks.
Yeah. Most people that do that do get up early. I will say that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I worked out on my own, tried to find this program and that program. And I've always been athletic, but I never had a good workout regimen. And I did it probably for a year or two. And then I was like, I just don't like the results I'm getting. And then I started reaching out. I was talking to friends who were into fitness. And a buddy of mine was like, well, there's a group of us working out. Why don't you come over here and work out? And he's like a CrossFit trainer, top 1%, competes, like cream of the crop.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because I was actually close to just being like, I don't know, I'm just going to walk around the block and, I'm not going to get into actually lifting heavy things. And when I started working out with him, I just got really strong. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in my life.
That's awesome.
And I was right on the edge of just being like, just forget it. This just isn't
Yeah.
important. So I just reiterate what you're saying when you're trying to find when you're trying to find that niche, just don't stop. The person that wins is the person who doesn't quit. And on the kind of remote kind of mentorship too, there's a guy, Seth Godin,
Mhm.
huge blog
Yeah.
writer.
Yeah.
I've heard him say, "You don't need a mentor, you need a hero." And I do like the idea of having a mentor, but I like the idea of what he's talking about. He's like, because not everyone can get a mentor, or maybe it's harder, but in the process, find that person online, find that hero, find that
Mhm.
maybe it's a person in scripture, maybe it's
Mhm.
a person in business, maybe it's a person in the community that you can't have a one-on-one relationship with, but you can follow them from afar and you
Yeah.
can learn and get to know them from a distance. One thing that I actually started last night is I started a custom chat GPT, and I am inputting all of the writings of Solomon from scripture.
Okay. Okay.
And I wanted a GPT that could give me just good insights,
Yeah.
but I wanted it to be from a biblical kind of
Yeah.
perspective. So either way,
Awesome. It's a creative way to use it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
I like it.
So, so going to dating real quick, because again, you're doing with college students and stuff like that, and I think there's some overlap here because, yeah, it's just talk to me a little bit about you talked about the priorities and the things that you want to look for in a mentor,
Okay.
and I'm assuming I've been out of the dating space for a long time.
Yeah.
When you're looking, or encouraging someone or maybe your kids or guiding them, talk to me a little bit about how you have, encouraged your kids and maybe how you encourage, your college students, et cetera. Values, principles, things that you need to align on. Maybe you're advising someone who doesn't have the same core or as much conviction in their faith, but how would you guide them and teach them just from a principle standpoint?
Yeah. Well, I would first off say that a marriage does not fix our problems; it amplifies them. That the things that our baggage, or or maybe we have bad habits or addictions or whatever. Marriage does not fix any of that stuff. It amplifies it. So, what if you've got anything going on in your life that that you probably need to stop or whatnot? That needs to happen first because a relationship is just going to amplify it. Okay, that's number one. Number two is basically what I said about finding a mentor is be the type of person the person you're looking for is looking for. Be that. Go ahead and be that type of person. Do those types of things. If you want to have a healthy lifestyle, well, you need to be healthy. Do healthy things. Eat healthy. Exercise. Right. Um, and And then the other thing is there's a concept of being unequally or equally yoked, and that's something that's talked about in scripture. And so if someone is a Christian and they think that they can marry someone that is a non-Christian, I'll just say, um, kids are going to amplify that being a problem. Okay, because there's a biblical worldview and then there's a non-biblical worldview, and I can just tell you that I could not imagine trying to raise a family with having one Christian and one not Christian. And I'll just say, God blessed me. I mean, God did bless me, and He was so faithful. My wife was saved the year our daughter was born. Okay, and we had been married for a couple of years before that, but so meaning um, I had married someone unequally yoked. Okay, and I was not living my life for the Lord, and I had a lot of priorities backwards at that time. But the best advice I could give a young person now, particularly someone that is a Christian, as I would say, don't get unequally yoked, because culture culture sways back and forth what's right and what's wrong and what's in and what's out. God's word is the same, and it's never going to change. And so, if you will anchor yourself on Him and what He has said, then you both can go to the same source of what is right and what is moral and what you should do. And if you both are making Him number one in your life, it's going to naturally pull the two of you together. If one of you is looking for the other as the thing that's going to make them happy, they'll never be happy. They'll never ever be happy. Your happiness comes from the Lord only. Now, let me back up. Sorry. Your happiness comes from the Lord. Okay. He can do that through people. Okay. But if you put your ultimate in anything other than Him, you're setting yourself up for a disaster. So hopefully that helped on the marriage
Yeah.
question and the dating question. The other thing you mentioned
Yeah.
in the lead in there was about the way we take care of ourselves and the morning routine that we have. And I don't know people, let me just say this: 99.9% of the people that are going to take care of themselves well, and they're going to take care of themselves body, mind, and spirit, are going to do it in the morning time. And you're going to, I already see somebody out there raising their hand saying, no, that's not me. That's not me. Look, you're not that special, okay? Trust me. Do it in the morning time, okay? Yes, there's gonna be the exception to the rule, but those are exceptions. Those are exceptions to the rule. If you wanna have a consistent prayer time, if you wanna have consistent time in the Word, if you wanna have consistent with the way you stretch, if you wanna have consistent with the way you work out, you're gonna do it in the morning, okay? If you want that consistency, that's and here's why, is because when you start to have a family, they need you in the evening, right? That means you got to get up early if you're going to do those other things on your own. Now, I'll give you something really cool that happened to me a couple of years ago that I did not even see this coming. Is my kids started working out with me. My two oldest kids started working out with me every morning. And man, that is like the biggest blessing in the world. Is I have a home gym, and they come in and we work out together in the morning. They get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to work out with dad, and that's gold, right? I would have never known that was gonna be a piece of one of the ways God was gonna bless me, by me taking care of myself. And that started really, when I got in college, I started working out and got in shape, uh, and I decided that was gonna be kind of the way that I lived. I was gonna stay in shape. I liked it. It felt good, right?
Yeah.
But when I started building, that would have been about 5 years after college, started building. There was a guy that kinda took me under his wing. He was kind to me and just kinda showing me the ropes, and I remember he was on his way out. He was retiring, and he was so unhealthy, he was not gonna be able to enjoy retirement. He was so unhealthy, okay? And I remember thinking to myself, "I'm not gonna work my whole life and then not be able to enjoy a retirement." And so I made a commitment to myself, and that's what you actually alluded to, was I don't work until I worked out. I don't work until I've worked out, period. And that's a non-negotiable for me. But then back up from that. So I'm gonna take care of my body so that I can do all the great things that God has planned for me on this earth, right? But if I don't have a relationship with Him, I haven't taken time before that. That is the time that I spend reading His Word, getting to know Him better, going to Him in prayer. I do something called Coffee with the King every morning. I'll share that with you later, but it's coffeewiththeking.net. And that's the story. I share that story of how that all kind of came to be. But it's where I sit down with a cup of coffee and pray. And I have but you'll love this. I have a discuss with list for God, by the way. Okay. So 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 think about it though. Think about how practical that is. When I sit down in the
I
morning,
love that.
when I sit down in the morning, I already I get out my discuss with list with him. And I look at what is the next thing I wanted to talk to God about. And throughout the day, throughout the week, or whatever, something will happen. I'm like, you know what, I need to pray about that. Or you know what, God, that's speaking to me. Maybe that song is speaking to me, or God, I want to know more about this. I mean, or I want to know you better about this. What does it mean to be sanctified? Or I'm just using words that just I want to spend some time in prayer. And so I open that up, and that's how I pray in the morning. I go to him with I have a list of things that I want to talk to God about.
All right. So when you're doing that, say someone's watching or listening and they're like, okay, what is this? Do you get like a voice from heaven, the clouds open and the sun shines and like talk to me about what that obviously, I understand that that's not necessarily how it happens.
Yeah,
God can do whatever he wants, but that's not the norm. So, what does that look like practically for you?
absolutely.
And how do you like if you're sitting with yourself and you're like, man, all I think about is these emails I need to respond to, or this or that. Talk to me about how you posture yourself and how you commune with God.
Okay. Number one is the way to get off track in the morning is to check your email first. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't check your email first. It's you want to spend quality time with God. You need to have a clear mind and tee it up. I mean, I put my earbuds in and I have some piano worship music that I listen to. Okay, and just to kind of put me in the zone of that, right? And you're right. I've never heard an audible word. I've never heard an audible word, but I have felt His Spirit, and so God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. The Spirit is what is inside of us, nudging me in different directions. And I'll just share a story that happened to me the other day. So, my daughter just went off to college this past week. So she's just finishing her first week in college, and you can imagine as a father sending your daughter off to school. I mean, it's hard and it's heavy, you know. Well, she was also in the Well, that college ministry I told you about, right? Both her and her boyfriend were in there, and the other morning, I woke up. It was 1:30 in the morning. My wife had gotten up. I think she had gone to sleep on the couch. She wasn't able to sleep that night or something. She was afraid she was going to wake me up, so she got out of bed. I did not know when she did that, but I woke up in the middle of the night, and I had on my heart there's this song called "Build My Life." Okay, and I had this chorus, which is, "I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you. It is a it will not be shaken." Okay? And that was just playing in my head. I was like, and so I grabbed my phone and I turned that song on. And I just listened to it a few times and I was like, "I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation." And I know that my daughter has built a firm foundation on her relationship with the Lord. And actually I know her boyfriend has too, which is awesome. Okay? Um, and that it was just I just had this peace, right? Because I knew I'm gonna be taking her to college. Well, that was on a Tuesday. On a Wednesday night, we're at the Well, and my daughter and her boyfriend and one other girl lead the worship, okay? And, they usually pick, like, 2 songs to lead, and one of the songs they picked was that. And I was just like, "Lord, thank you for that peace." I mean, that was really just I really looked at that as, I mean, he was just speaking peace into my life, that he knew it was gonna be hard for me taking her to college, right? But if those that build their life on a firm foundation will not be shaken, they'll not be shaken. And so how does he speak to me? By listening to his spirit. Just listening to you know, I'm not saying I go around all day long saying, "God, what do I do here? What do I" that's not it at all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not it at all. But
Yeah.
walking with him and staying in tune with him and saying, "God, what should I do here?" And God, I'm dealing with this. It's heavy. Comfort me, Lord. Comfort me. It's like David would say. David would say in the Psalms, read the Psalms. God, comfort me, you know? And when he does stuff like that, and so I also have, you're gonna laugh at this. I keep another list in my phone of it's under one of the proverbs. It says, "Many are the plans in a man's heart, but it's the Lord who establishes his steps." And Adam, there, I mean, I have dozens, if not hundreds, of times in my life where I could look in the rearview mirror and see, oh my goodness, Lord, you were establishing my steps. I had these plans in my heart, but you were establishing my steps. And when He did that, I could look back and I would write that down. I would write it down, and I write down the month and the year that it happened. And because here's something, this is probably one of the most important things about this is we're all going to go through the fire. We're all going to go through difficult times. And it is so hard to remember the times that he's been faithful when you are going through that. So when I'm in the fire and when I'm going through something really hard, I'll get out that list and I'll just start to read through all those times where God has been faithful. And guess what it does? It brings joy back into my life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I so love that and agree with that. I found myself a couple years ago with a neighbor. We were going to skiing, and it was interesting because he was like he had little to no context of like Christianity, which is honestly one of the first times I'd been with someone who's like he
What
didn't
is
he
it?
like it was almost like yeah he just had like zero context for it, or at least that's the way it kind of came across. And I just we were just talking. It was like a 2 hour drive, and I was like well, I honestly, I could choose just to say, "I work really hard and I've built this." Or I can choose to say, "Hey, I give God thanks and praise. I put my hand to the plow, so to speak, but God makes it rain. And I do what I can. And when I get to the other side and we see some success, I pause and I choose. And sometimes it's like very obvious, like there was some divine intervention.
Mm.
And then other times it's like, regardless if I've worked hard or not, I have life and breath because of him, and I just choose to give him praise and give him, you know, the gratitude for that rather than saying, "Oh, Adam is awesome and look what Adam did."
Yeah.
And I think it's also just recognizing, I think when you're meditating on it, and I think if like even if you were to take like a secular kind of principle, it's actually probably more of a Christian principle in the secular use it like in Think and Grow Rich, you write down your goals and you're always thinking about it. And part of the concept is you recognize opportunities when they
Mm.
come. And so if we're always meditating on things and, asking God to guide us, we also start to just recognize, oh,
Mhm.
I have peace in this hard situation. And you're able to just navigate things better because you are constantly just have that front of mind versus, all the negative from mind. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, man. I mean, and that's one of the things when I'm with my kids or when I'm with other people that, we're out in nature or something, and I'm just like, man, isn't God creative? Isn't God creative? Like, look at the beauty here or something. And, if someone is not a Christian, they may look and be like, I really never thought about it like that, you know?
Yep. Yep.
He gives us all these reasons to point back to him. And really, I mean, we are to reflect him, right? And so are we becoming, I'm sure, the fruit of the spirit, love, joy, and peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, right? And so do people see that inside of our lives? Is that who we are, right? Are we that?
Yep.
Are we becoming more and more and more of that? Is that growing in our life? Or is that dead, right? And if it's dead, it should give us room to pause and say, "Okay, Lord, what needs to happen here?"
Yep. Absolutely. Well, one last question, and I do want to echo something that you said about your dad earlier. I actually had a note
Mhm.
here. Just I've had the privilege of talking with your dad many times and working with him, and he really is. He's a great man, and it is really a privilege as someone who's lost his father. Early on, I was 14 when my father passed, and one of the things that I look for are people who are fathering well, and you're one of those people. Steve Bertishaw, who I also am very close to, and it's always fun to me to see people that are kind of similar age. You're a little bit older than me, doing well with fathering, great examples, and then also to be able to look and see, what does it look like to, be a good father to an adult? what does it look like to be a good grandfather and those types of things. And I'm not close to your dad, but when I have had a chance to interact with him, he's a just a phenomenal man. Your mother as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, I was dealt a, what royal flush, I guess.
yeah, I love it. So to close this out, tell me your thoughts, and you can answer both or just one. What do you think this up and coming, generation, college class, college student or high school students as well? What do you think they're doing really well and really encourages you? And then, or or and what do you think they could be focusing on and be doing a little better at? And where do you think maybe they're missing some opportunities? And y feel free to answer both or just one.
Yeah, okay. I wanna answer a third thing too that you didn't ask me. I wanna give you a great resource because, anybody can biologically be a dad, right? But
Mhm.
but being a really good dad, like the kind of dad that is as an all-pro dad. I wanna turn you on to, allprodad.com. It was started by Tony Dungy,
Okay.
and it is a resource. I get the emails 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, and it is just, it's a little blog on fatherhood, and it gives you ammo for how to be a great dad. And I would don't leave it to the world for the world to just kinda, feed you stuff about what it means to be a dad. Man, be intentional about that because if that is that really think about that father-child relationship. I mean, no one else can be a real father, like the father to your children. That is your job to do. And so I want to encourage your listeners to check that out, allprodad.com. Okay. Now give me
Yeah.
your
And I would also say be intentional of being a good father, and then also don't allow other people to tell your kids what to value,
yeah,
because
it's tough for you.
they're gonna be influenced. Yeah, they're gonna be influenced by something, and it's better it comes from you. So
It needs to come from you. So, the things that, um let's see here. So you asked me the things that I'm seeing in college students that, they're doing well, and
yeah,
then the thing that maybe I see that maybe they could use some help with. Those are the 2 main things.
yeah,
Okay, so the thing that I would say they do well is I'm seeing people they really want their life to matter. Like, that's one of the things I'm seeing is they really want their life to matter. Like, they're not just floating by. There's this hunger in them that, they want that they're gonna go do to count, okay? Yeah. And that's gonna help me lead into this next one where I think they could use a little bit more help, is sometimes they're afraid to start because they're afraid to start on the wrong path. And s and so if you are too hesitant to start, you're gonna miss out on so many things. It's like, well, say I wanted to start a lawn cutting business or a pressure washing business or a painting business or whatever. Well, what if that's not my life passion? And then we already talked about that not being the thing you should go after, but passion. But if you wait, you're gonna miss out on so many other opportunities. But if you go ahead and start something, you're gonna find things that you were naturally good at and you were gifted at. Maybe it's maybe it's you start a landscape business, but you realize how good you are at accounting, and you build this accounting software that landscapers can use, right? I mean, you would never know that if you just didn't move forward. So I would say,
yeah,
look, just do something, go after something and explore it from different perspectives and different angles. Um, and don't wait, okay? Because and that's going to pair with that thing that I'm seeing inside of them. They're longing to matter. They're longing to matter, and they want truth. They want truth. And the sad thing is Instagram and X and all the social media things. I mean, it's not truth. It is not truth. It is just what somebody's perspective is on something, and you're like, why if it why would you give this high credence to what a football player or a model thinks about something when they're not an expert in that field, you know?
yep,
Right? And so,
yeah,
just be aware of where you're getting where are you getting your truth from? And that's why I love I don't want to say that's why I love scripture, but I love that about scripture is that it is truth. So hopefully did that help answer your
No,
question there?
I love it. Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love that. In fact, that's been part of my encouragement, even with my son. He's not going to college, but with that said, he's studying to take the LSAT, and then what's the test called to for the master's program?
The GMAT?
Uh, GMAT, yeah.
Yeah,
So he's like, "I don't wanna go to school," but he's just studying because he wants the knowledge, he wants the experience, he wants the information,
yeah,
but part of that too is he's working with me, he's working with my brother, and he's partnered with, 2 developers doing an AI thing, and he's just taking a lot of swings and I tell him all the time, it's like, "If you're not gonna go to school and kinda hone in on a specific skill, then you just gotta get out there and get some reps in." It's like,
yeah,
it's like working out. If you wanna get strong, you wanna get better at it, you just have to do it. It's unreasonable to think that you're gonna be great at something that you've done for 1 weekend. Go out, do it consistently, figure out what you're good at, and then really lean into it. So, I love that. I love it.
that's good. I love it.
Well, Brian, we'll wrap this up. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. And if someone wants to, follow you or maybe even reach out to you for coaching and whatnot, is your LinkedIn probably the best place?
LinkedIn is good. They can find me on for coaching on Five Capitals. Just Brian Baber Five Capitals, or just look me up on LinkedIn. Either way is fine.
Okay, yeah, and we'll link to both of those in the description. So,
Okay.
thank you so much for your time and your wisdom, and we so appreciate it. And till next time, thank you so much.
Super proud of you, Adam.
Thank you so much. I so appreciate it.
See you.